You are now tuned in to the GNWY podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the GNWY podcast. I'm Jordan Miller, your host, and today we have none other than Baruc. Lara, if you can, make some noise for Baruc. Lara, everybody. Excellent. What's up, man?
What up, my man?
How you feeling?
I feel good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, definitely. So, you came all the way from where are you from?
So I was born in California, but
Okay.
right now the living situation's in Norman
The living situation.
Yeah, because of college, man.
Yeah,
I'm a junior at OU, so
Okay.
yeah, I drove all the way from down there.
You drove all the way. Excellent.
yeah.
What is that, 45 minutes?
Yeah, it was about 45 minutes, man.
My man.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what's up. So, we met in our leadership group, SALT, and everything.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it was like two meetings ago that you were talking to me about your stuff, and for some reason I haven't even heard about everything that you're doing until you're like going into all this detail about everything, and I was like, yo, I've got to have this dude on the podcast. So for one, Baruc, give me a little bit about where you're from, and I want to hear some 3 amazing facts about you.
3 amazing facts.
Yes, sir.
So I'm from, like I said, I'm from California.
Okay.
I was born in California, but my parents only said like a year after I was born, and then we ended up all moving over here to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I'm a middle child of 7, bro.
Of 7?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. The Laura's getting down. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I would always, when I was growing up, my teachers would always ask, like, how'd your mom do it, right?
Yeah.
How'd your mom do it?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. It's like willpower. A lot of willpower. So
That's amazing.
So we moved to Oklahoma City, and I've just been in the local area for about 20 years.
Okay.
I'm 21, so about 20 years.
Yeah.
Aside of that, man, 3 amazing facts.
Yes.
Fact number 1, I've been to 20 different countries before I was 20 years old, 3 different times.
What?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Fact number 2,
That's like a country a year.
yes.
How the heck did you? No, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll jump into that later.
Yeah.
I run a nonprofit. I started my nonprofit, and then fact number 3, I just published my book. So, yeah,
Already popping. That's what's up, man. For one, what are you going to school for?
so it's funny too, because it's just like it has nothing to do with all the things that I want to do or I'm doing. Eventually, maybe, but not right now. I'm a communications major and a minor in international studies.
Okay.
But I'm looking to change the major here this semester to a philosophy major.
Okay.
But so when I was going into college, right, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to major in. Not what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do, but for the most part, I was like, okay, what major will help me do that at the best of my ability, right?
Right.
And I met with one of my mentors, and she was telling me, she's like, you should think about communications. And I was like, okay, like what?
Yeah.
And she was like, some people go to learn different things, but maybe you should just go and improve a skill.
Right.
And she was like, you're a good talker, you're able to go and give great speeches. Yeah, that's your thing. Yeah. She said, it's better for you to go and understand it better. And I didn't take the advice early on. But
You
then
said you didn't?
Yeah, I didn't. So I
Okay.
jumped in. I switched like my major like 3 times, and then eventually I hit communications. Like, well, let me check this out, right?
Yeah.
And then going through the courses, I was like, it's like relearning something, right? And I was like, I don't want to finish my last 2 years trying to relearn something.
Yeah.
So for me, it was okay. What's something that I enjoy, but I feel like I need to know more about? And it was philosophy. I enjoy reading all the different types of philosophies that have been curated over, the history of man, right?
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in that, and for me it was like, well, I know I don't know everything,
Yeah.
so I would feel like every class experience that I would take under philosophy would be a new lesson,
Yeah.
right? So that's the kind of the shift I wanted to take, and eventually I want to get like a PhD in philosophy, but that's later down the road.
Heck yeah. Okay. I see you. So you've been to 20 different countries before you turned 21.
Yes, sir.
Which countries have you been to?
So let's start with the North
And
America.
what okay, for one, you gotta be able to like explain why and how you did that. Was your parents just like, all right, I'm gonna ship you off and go experience all these different places, or were you just like, was it a whole family thing, or you gotta give us the rundown?
There's a backstory, but before we get to that, let me name you at least some of them because I probably won't get them all.
Yeah.
At least North American countries, we kind of been through Mexico. And then, of course, America and kind of travel through here.
Yeah.
But going overseas, I've been to the UK, Portugal, Spain, France, Turkey, Greece, Bosnia, Slovenia, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Germany, Italy, Sweden. I think Sweden, yeah. Then we went to Egypt, Israel, Jordan, I'm Hungary. There you go. I think I'm missing a few, but we did those trips. We did them all in different parts of my life, right? But we would leave for a whole month.
Wow.
So my dad was like, all right, let's do this, right? No, the whole point and perspective on why we did these trips growing up was my dad grew up poor, or he grew up pretty under the poverty rate in Mexico, right? And he had a lot of struggle. There was a lot of push for him when he was growing up to figure out something, but along with helping provide for his family, right? Yeah. But he always had these big dreams growing up, right? And one of the dreams was traveling the world. So after he was able to come to the U.S. with my mom, and they were able to get their citizenship and green card and all that stuff, right? And he was able to become economically well, you know, right after he hit that point. For him, it was okay, I want to go and travel. So you think I've been everywhere? My dad's been everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, so he did a trip first around the 90s, right? He went over Europe first, and then I think he did it twice by himself.
Wow.
And then he came back, and then he took my mom with him. And they did all of those, right? All of those trips. And then growing up, my dad kind of, you know, because unless you're not being encouraged at home or you're not really thinking big, it's easy to get kind of caught up in a kind of the small bubble and sphere of your daily life, right? Yeah, and I think my dad noticed that. You know, he was saying, my kids are all going kind of, they're staying stagnant. And my older brothers were getting in a lot of trouble. They were getting in like gang relations type stuff. Yeah. And my dad was like, okay, I got to do something, right? Yeah. And the biggest thing for him was like, you know, traveling, I think is one of the biggest keys. And I think something that's the young people should be experiencing. So he ended up sending my older brothers, my older sister, and my mom first. So they did a whole trip over the summer. They were gone for almost like 2.5 months. Wow. Right. So they kind of did their thing, and I wanted to go. I was like, dude, you know, right? I want to say I was.
You're just gonna leave me here?
Yeah. I was like, you know, me and my brothers, me and my younger siblings. I was like, so like, what about us, right?
Right.
And I was about 14. I want to say like 14 when I was like, dude, like, what's up? And my dad told me, he's like, well, you have to earn it. So he said, you know, these are the two things you have to do. Number one, you have to get good grades, great grades, right? Straight A's. I want to see straight A's. Yeah. And then after that, I want you to come and help me at the shop, at the family business. Yeah. So me and my siblings would go, you know, during the day, of course, go to school, get good grades. And then after school, they would drop me off. And my dad's family business is a mechanic, right? And, you know, for me, it was attending the customers, kind of moving on, that type of stuff. Yeah. So I would have to prove myself in that manner. And then I remember I was 7th grade, middle school. And then he tells me, he says, where do you want to go this Christmas, right? This December. Okay. And I was like, what? You know, yeah. I was like, dude, what?
I did it.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. Right. And so my dad ended up taking me with him. And so it was me, my older brother, my older sister, and my dad. Yeah. So then he left a group behind, right? And we did the whole month. And it was a lot about opening my mind up to something bigger. My dad was like I said, he was scared that we were going to stay stagnant. And he knew that all of us had gifts and capabilities to do great things. Yeah. But sometimes you have to kind of open that mind up, right? And he took us through all of these different trips. And it's an interesting format the way he did it, because we sacrificed a lot of leisure. It wasn't necessarily something that it was like, okay, we're going 5-star hotels, all that type of stuff, right? Yeah. It was more so of us sacrificing leisure, understanding how people lived, and kind of knowing the culture around the world, along with all the different arts and history behind it. Yeah. So we would go.
It's not just like a touristy thing.
No,
it's like
yeah.
You're with the people.
Exactly. So a lot of people usually do the touristic type thing. So they get a hotel, they pay for like a whole tour guide, right?
Yeah.
But the thing about those things, because they're 24/7 and they're fast.
Yeah.
So they don't let you enjoy a lot of it, and usually it's just typical instruction. This is what happened here. This is what happened here. Fun fact here, right? And that's about it.
Right.
My dad was like, you know what? I got this. It's like, I'm your tour guide, right?
Right.
And he was like, and he took us through all these different places, but he was making us think. And he started asking us these questions like, you know, what happened here? And you know, unfortunately, mankind ended up falling here, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we were doing all these different types of quests, more so of journeys, right? And so I did that 7th grade, and then we did it again 8th grade, right? But this time my dad was like, okay, I'm gonna take everybody, right?
Yeah.
So there's 9 of us. I still don't know how he did it, but he took everybody, right? And we were gone for a whole month, and we did a trip, and then we took a break. We kind of traveled around the States my freshman year of high school, and then we did it again sophomore year. And, you know, we did the whole experience and all of that. But my dad wanted us to wake up to say, you know, there's bigger problems in the world than what you think you have. He says, honestly, you have it really well. Yeah. And listen, growing up at the time, I didn't think so. I was like, man, you know, getting the new Xbox, that's my goal, right? And it's so hard to get that. Yeah. And then when I came back from those trips, I was like, man, that shouldn't be my goal. Yeah. You know, my goal is to try to help more people, right? You know, find the problems within my community and try to find solutions, right? Yeah. Better myself. Those were the things that I came back with. And it just gave me a sense of urgency to understand that there's more to life than just kind of your day-to-day things. So there's honestly there's more to your personal wantings, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what I saw after that. I was like, man, you know, I have to really, really check myself because if I'm not working to help others, then I mean, you know, we're gonna stay. Humanity in general is gonna stay the same.
Exactly.
But if I start working for others, and that becomes something other people start noticing, then they're going to do the same. Yeah. And it's kind of just a ripple effect in that manner.
Definitely, man. That's super dope, man. I haven't met anybody that's been to 20 different countries, especially before they turn 21. Yeah. And so that's amazing. I think a lot of people would give anything to go do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so that opportunity is super rare. I would want to do it. So tell your dad to hit me up. It's like, hey, and then we just need to go.
So my friend Jordan wants to go on the trip. That's exactly. He'd be, you know, he's my dad is always, he's the guy who likes to champion the kid, right? Yeah. And one of my older brother's best friends, he's Guatemalan, you know, and he kind of wanted to experience these things, and my dad took him. My dad took him and my older brother. The three of them did a whole trip. I was sitting there. I was like, wow, all right,
bro. I'll be your 8th sibling. Right. I don't care. You know, just let me do it. I'd love to go. That's amazing, man. And so, like, out of these experiences and like cultures that you've been a part of, and seeing the need and seeing that, you know, humanity needs to actually come together, and you providing that piece of, you know, opportunity and then insight from other places that you've been, how have you been able to like take all of that insight and all of that experience and then be able to impact your own community and all that? Is that through I'm trying to bring up your nonprofit, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So go ahead and tell us like what you're doing and how you started building your nonprofit.
Well, it's a great question, because it is a leeway into doing what I'm doing today. Yeah. And my book is about those experiences. So for me, it was, okay, how can I, you know, my dad was scared, and it was interesting because you would see it and he would tell us, right? My dad was scared that these trips did no effect on us. He was and he was telling my mom that, and I would be there when he would say it. He's like, man, you know, I'm really scared that these trips that we took just didn't help you guys at all. Yeah. And for me, it was like, well, I'm still trying to figure out kind of the way to do so, right? And so I decided to do two things. I start a nonprofit and then write the book, right? But the nonprofit was baby steps more so. So after I came back my sophomore year from that last trip, right? The question was, where is the most need? And how do I do that? And it was baby steps. Is honestly just taking leadership roles, right? So I started doing leadership roles in my school and in my community at church, right? And then after that, it was like people were saying, okay, this guy is capable of doing more, right? So then they were like, oh, you should run for a position. You know, that's what it was for both school and church, right? You should run for like a leadership position, you know, with student leadership or whatever. And then that's what I did my junior year. And then it was my senior year where I had this bigger plan for my school. my school was really it wasn't beforehand, like the past 20 years it wasn't, but just these past couple of 5-10 years, the school that I went to in high school was, one that took in a lot of underprivileged, low-income students.
Okay.
And kind of the atmosphere in general needed a little bit of a change. So I had this bigger plan of, okay, I really want to shift the mindset of these students to be able to understand that they will, and that there's hope for it, right?
Yeah.
And for me was I built this plan. I ran for president at my school. I won. And then from there on, we kind of put together a good team under leadership, and then we kind of just structured this big plan, and we kind of flipped the whole culture.
Wow.
It was like it was a 1 year, and it was a lot of work, but it was a quick culture shift, right, to a much more positive and much more hopeful a culture at this school. And at the end of my year, right, I'm about to graduate and all of that, and I remember I was talking to my friend. I was like, man, if I was only remembered here at this school for being a good president, then I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I got something, under my sleeve. And
you pull out this book.
So I reached out to my parents, and we sat down and we talked, and I told them, I said, at my school, there's a lot of kids that want to pursue higher education, but they don't have the finances to do so, right?
Right.
And I told my dad, I was like, we're good. We have some type of money, right? And I said, why don't we start a scholarship fund at our high school? And my dad was like, well, I could, why should I give someone money if I could just give that to you? And I told him, I was like, well, I'll be all right. I told him, I was like, you taught me to figure out my problems, so I'll be all right. I'm gonna get through college. I'll figure it out. Don't worry about that. But I told my dad, like, there's kids that don't have parents like you, right? And then they're missing that gap in between. And I told him, I said, so we should, kind of utilize our position to give back. And at the end they agreed, and we kind of did this whole scholarship process. And it was funny because it was at the end of the year, and there was the big leadership, right? Leadership awards assembly, to where they were kind of recognizing the leaders, and as well as giving scholarships, for different students. And I was the last person to give the scholarship, right?
Yeah.
And the counselor was like, I've never seen this in my life. And she was like talking about it. She was like, I've never seen a high school senior give a scholarship to another high school senior, right?
Wow.
And she announced me. She told me to come out, and I kind of give a nice little speech, and I announced the winner.
Yeah.
And the winner was crying. She came over to me crying, and she's a DACA student, right? So she was crying. She's a DACA student, and she comes over to me. She's like, Baruc. And I thought I did something wrong. I was like, oh man. I was sitting there. I was like,
it's like, this isn't enough money.
Yeah. I was sitting there like, dang, like, was $1,000 enough? Or
Right.
And she comes over to me, she's like, how'd you know? And I said, how did I know what? And I'm like looking at her like, and she was telling me, she's like, how'd you know I only needed $1,000? I was like, explain yourself. I'm not picking up.
Explain yourself, woman.
I was like, I'm not picking up what you're putting down. I'm not picking it up. I don't know what you're trying to say here. And she said, because she was crying, right? And she was telling me, she's like, I had raised enough money for the 4 years for college for OU, right? She said I had raised enough money. The only thing I needed was $1,000.
Wow.
And then I would have been able. I was like, I would have curated enough scholarships for 4 years.
Wow.
And she said I was only missing $1,000. $1,000. I was like,
that's crazy.
yeah. And she's like, how'd you know? I was like, I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know. I didn't look at any of the applications. I put together a committee,
right?
And they did that because I would know all of the applications when I would see them, right? And I said, I didn't know you were the most impressive. And I kind of saw, I was like, well, I did something. I kind of put something in that, and someone in that space, right?
Yeah.
So my question then after that was, okay, one opportunity is cool. It's great. But I said, I want to be able to give more opportunity and lasting opportunity. Yeah. I said a scholarship of $1,000 would probably give someone a semester opportunity, not a, lifetime opportunity. So for me, it was, okay, I need to figure out these things. Yeah. And I remember I was going into college, and I told this story to a friend of mine not that long ago. I said I would say a couple of weeks before I went to college, I met with one of my mentors, business mentors. I went to Panera, we were eating, and I gave her this outline. I said, so this is what I want to do. I want to start a nonprofit, leadership conference, right? I want to write a book, and I want to start a business. Yeah. I did 2 out of the 3 right now, right?
Right,
so right. I'm on that last one, but I told her, like, this is the plan. And she was a little bit like, wow, I can help you with this. And we kind of put structured together the whole nonprofit to where like I said, $1,000 was cool, but for me, it was like I need to see what students are lacking, especially underrepresented communities. I wanted to see the gap in between and what are they lacking within that gap to get a student from point A to point B. And what I was seeing was parenting household problems, right? But I can't go inside the household. I can't act like a parent. I can't put, those type of roles in these kids' life. So for me, it was like, okay, I got to do this another way. And it was more so based on skills. So I kind of started doing these case studies, right, of successful people who didn't go to school, successful people who did. And I kind of started seeing that the commonality traits were different skills.
Yeah.
It wasn't so the information they learned, it was more so the skills they put together, right? So thinking skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence. So I was saying, okay, that's kind of the ingredients, right? And then the other two parts were, okay, purpose and pathways, right? So then I was like, okay, if I could put those three things together and figure out ways to do that, I said, I think I'm making a long-term impact. Yeah. So then I started saying, okay, we need to do some type of leadership development. We need to do some type of entrepreneurship development.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of start figuring out ways to input a lot of these different, methods into the classroom. And so we started doing some curriculum building for teachers in high schools. Yeah. And then we also decided to still keep scholarships.
Gotcha.
So those are the kind of the four pathways I kind of put together to see how we can make long-term effect on students' lives who live in underprivileged communities.
Yeah. So is that like the standard that they have to go by for even to be like applying for your scholarship? Is it to just have good grades and like be interested in like everything that you're talking about?
So the standard for the scholarship is three things: leadership, community, and then adversity.
Okay.
So we look for students that are, even though they're dealing with adversity at home and the external environment from school, they're still putting the work to get good grades and being involved.
Okay.
Because you do see that, and I see a lot of, sometimes I say, like, man, I wish I just give everybody money, right?
Right.
Because every kid is trying, you see them trying. And for me, that's like kind of the disparity we're seeing in our communities. You don't, the higher ups, right? They don't see that.
Right.
They don't see that they're trying. What they see is everything else around them. And for me, it was like, no, these kids are worth it. They deserve a chance. Yeah. Everybody deserves at least an opportunity. Yeah. If you that's what happened. My dad took, when I did the case study with my dad, what I ended up seeing, he just got one opportunity. He took advantage of it and he executed. For me, it was like, these kids are just looking for one opportunity. Yeah. And if you ever give them the toolkit to be able to achieve that, I said, like, that's all they need. So you don't need to give them anything else. Yeah. So the criteria is based off leadership, community, and adversity. And then, of course, they have to have a certain GPA, right? Yeah. And rec letters. But that's the criteria for the scholarship. The other three criteria is more so jumping in these schools and kind of just saying, okay, who needs it the most? What kids need it the most? And then we kind of measure it from there. Gotcha. And then we move forward. That's from that type of stuff.
That's amazing, man. And out of that whole thing, you wrote your book, right? And so, like, what's the title of your book for one?
The title is the Incredible True Story, out on Amazon.
There you go. Right? There you go.
Right. Yeah, Amazon. Right. Look it up on Amazon. The Incredible True Story. Yeah. So the Incredible True Story was kind of the coming of age, right? So in my head, I wanted to put kind of the lessons I learned on a book. Or in some type of way, right? Yeah. And I started writing the book when I was like a junior in high school. Wow. All right. Yeah. So, and I just published it. So I'm amazing. A junior in college now, right? And I started writing. I remember it was funny. It was a funny story because I would tell my stories in English class my junior year of high school. Yeah. And my English teacher was all like, "You're annoying," she's like, "and you're distracting the kids." Because I would just like, it'd be like the middle of class, it'd be quiet, and then I'd just like pop up. It's like, when I was in Egypt, and they were like sitting, and they thought it was funny because they thought it was fake. They thought I was playing. Right. Like my classmates actually thought, and I brought pictures. I said, "No, I'm not playing."
Here goes Baruc again, talking about Egypt.
Yeah, they were like, "Ah, gosh." I was like, "This guy has a crazy imagination." I was like, "No." Right. And the funny thing was, I was telling a story about. I would tell this story because they would always ask about it. When the first time I went to Egypt, I bargained my sister for camels.
What?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was. So see, that's the expression I would get in class. I'm like, dude, what? They were like, that. There's no way, right?
You bargained your sister for camels.
Yeah. So we were in it's kind of a quick memory down lane story, right? we were outside this Egyptian temple in Aswan. So you get your Egyptian temples. You kind of go through them. You know, you get Cairo, you got Luxor, you have all these different temples, right? And we had to wake up early because the way you kind of do Egypt is through the Nile. So they have these ships, right? These touristic boats that you do a cruise on, and you do it from Aswan back up to Luxor or Cairo. It just depends what type of package you get, right? And we were in Aswan, and one of the big temples is like 5 hours away from where we were staying at.
Okay.
So we would have to wake up like 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it was like 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we had to wake up, and then we take the shuttle that picks up the tourists, right? And we go to Aswan, and we kind of see the whole thing. And we're waiting in a car for everybody to come back so we can head back to the boat, right? Because the boat was leaving within time. And the Egyptians like to bargain, so they have all these different things they're coming up, they're trying to sell you, right? Like, hey, my friend, buy my thing, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of came up, and they do this to play. They play around with tourists when they do this, right?
Of course.
So they're coming and trying, and my dad's like, no, I don't want to buy anything, right? And then they're like, okay. They're like, how much for your daughter?
What?
Right, because you know the culture and tradition there with kind of the Islamic faith is that type of thing, right? It's the asking of the male to the parent, right? So it was like joking around, it's like, hey, how much for your daughter? And my dad was like, no, she's not for sale, And I'm like, to my dad, I was like, no, dude, I do the talking here, right?
And you're like, yeah, $1,000, you could have her.
And the guy was just like, oh, what do you want? And I looked over to him and I said 10. And he said, 10
what?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He's like, 10 rubies. Like, what are you looking here? And I said, 10 camels. And the guy was like, okay, I'll call my friend. And my dad's like, no. You know, right? He's like, dude. And he pulled out his phone and everything. My dad like hits me in the head. What? Yeah, dude. And my sister is like looking at me. She's like, dude, I can't believe you. And I was telling her, I was like, dude, you know how gangster I would be if I bring back camels? Like, you know, kids ride their bikes to school or get dropped off. I roll up to school with my camel and I tie him up on the bike rack and I say, hey, wait here. I'll be right back. Dude, I'd be gangster, bro. I don't think they have camels at the zoo, do they?
They probably do, but like you wouldn't have a sister though.
She be living in Egypt, man. You know, you can't say that. You can't. No one can.
Hilarious. Right? Yeah, no one can say that except Bible times or something. Yeah, I traded my sister for 10 camels. It was great, but I got a sweet ride to school now. So,
but I'm saying though, that'd be gangster. I'd be like down on 23rd and
just walking. Yeah,
it's like, hey, dude, you ready? So
wait, so you'd be just riding one. Why do you need 10?
Well, the 10 is just in case, man. You know, or like, hey, if the
they're
homies
just all chilling at home.
Yeah, you trying to roll up to an event with the homies?
Yeah,
it's like each one of us gets a camel. We roll up with our camels. It's like, dude, I'm telling you, bro, that'd be gangster.
That would be pretty swaggy.
Yeah, they'd be looking at you like, dude, that's Baruc. And I was like, all right, here comes Baruc with his camels, right?
All I could think of is that scene in Aladdin, whenever like the genie comes in, it's like Prince Ali, you just rolling up, Prince Baruc, you just riding in. That'd be so tight.
Yeah, bro. But that was the story I was giving my class, and they're like, dude, this guy's crazy, right?
I can see. I mean, to be honest, I can see why they think that's wild. But like,
right. But I remember my English teacher looked at me. She's like, dude, you know, Baruc, and my table was next to hers because in the first day of class, I like.
Oh, that's her fault.
Yeah. She like moved me, and I would like during class, like when I'd be quiet, I'd be like throwing her stuff because I would be right in front of her. I'd throw her stuff. I was like, hey. You know, right? And
that's hilarious.
Right. I remember she looked at me. She's like, you know, you're distracting. She said, and I was like, well, I want to tell my stories and stuff like that. And she told me, it's like, if you write them down, write your stories down, I'll read them. And it just kind of clicked after that. And I was like, you know, that's not a bad idea, right?
Gotta write a book,
right? Yeah.
Wow.
And I kind of put. So then the manuscript changed like 6 times.
Yeah.
So it was okay. And I was trying to figure that out. I was like, okay, what's the best story to tell?
Yeah.
And I ended up kind of looking over, and I was like, you know what? I think a lot of young people need to hear about reflection, you know, about purpose and responsibility. Those were the things that I took out of my trips. So then I kind of put some of the best stories that I had through the trip, and I curated them all into this book. So it's a really book of lessons, experiences, and my kind of my conclusion to life. Yeah. And I kind of drive that to younger people, you know, people in high school, more so college and recent college grads. Yeah. Because I think at that level is when people are really trying to figure out where they want to go in life,
Definitely.
right? So I kind of put that together.
That's amazing, man. I applaud you, bro. Much respect. That's tight. That I mean, for you to be your age, and for one, I mean, you've gone to 20 different countries, and then now you have a book and a nonprofit, bro. That's super dope. And so okay, you went from all of these different countries, wrote down your experiences, wrote your book, finally got your book done. And then during that process, you're building a nonprofit as well, right?
Yeah.
And so like right now, currently, what's your projection of, I mean, you know, seeing COVID restrictions and everything, but I know that you were talking to me about your conference that you're trying to put together. And that was geared toward leadership, correct? And so like once that gets going, like what do you want that leadership conference to look like?
So the whole thing with this leadership program / conference, so the reason why I started doing a day conference was the guinea pig. So I was like, okay, what's going to be kind of the best format for a day, right? Because eventually I want to transition it into a 7-month-long program for high school students. That's the idea, right? My overall goal for my foundation is long-term economic prosperity. Right? So how can I get a kid who comes from an underprivileged community and guarantee him a good long-term economic life? Because that's ultimately, if you're able, especially in our system, you know, it's free market capitalist, right? That's how you kind of create a pathway for yourself. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way to go, but in a sense, it gives you a long-term, I want to say a long-term, you know, you kind of feel good once you overcame all of that, right? Because all of and my dad did this. As soon as he was able to get his economic long-term prosperity, he was able to donate and give back and help people, right? So the whole idea for me is like, well, once you get to that point, you know, it's pass it along, right? You know, pay it forward. So the whole idea behind this leadership conference is building the skills, you know, at least the leadership skills, right? The being able to be a coach, a director, a guide to people. And for them to be able to take those skills back and bring them back into their schools and implement them. You know, because that's what I did, right? Growing up, I would meet with all these entrepreneurs. I would look at my dad. I'd take these trips, right? And my senior year, I put all that together, and I was like, okay, I got to formulate it now. And then I executed it. So that's the idea. I want to see if I can replicate what I did to these students. So, you know, hopefully, you know, we're able to do it, but that's kind of where we're leaning to that. That's kind of how I want it to look like. And each different, you know, because when it becomes the 7-month-long program, each workshop would be done by a different leader in the community. So it would be cool to have some of our big time, you know, someone like Wes, right? Some of our SALT friends, you know, someone like you with Generation Y come out and give these type of workshops, like world-class information to high school students. You know, that'd be killer. You know, that's just, in a sense, it's unheard of as well. And then you're able to build your network along with it in that way too. So that's how I kind of want that to look like.
Building that sense of security, man, I feel like that's huge for students, and they're going through life right now that like in such an unsecure, like unstable world right now. Even for you to come through and even given these opportunities and these this advice that you've got from experience or from you know, everything that you've been through, you know, like it's definitely needed for these students.
You know, and it's kind of just like, you know, and I think you know, some of my mentors says like, man, you're paying it forward too soon, right? Because you know, for all the mentors that I had growing up, you know, the thing they told me was like, you know, Brooke, I want to kind of pour into you. The only thing I ask of you is when you get to my point, you pay it forward, right? And then I was like, you know, I was 20 years old and I was like, oh, I want to start a nonprofit. I was like, you know, people usually start that when they're 40, 50, right? And so, you know, you're heading on it. And I told them, I was like, well, I just have like a lot of opportunity at this point. I said, like, you know, I know you guys, you know, I have a really good plan forward. I told them I have had great experiences. You know, I kind of have a lot of this and I can't do it all. All right. I can't do it all. I can't take all of those opportunities, but the question was, if I take one of these opportunities, what happens to the rest? Right? Does it go untaken? So for me, it's like, no, let me go and pass that on, right? Let me go give it to some kids.
That's right.
And that's kind of the thing with me. I tell people all the time, like, life is all about a responsibility. It tells you, people need to take responsibility for their lives. And you know, unfortunately, people in underprivileged communities, it's a bigger responsibility, right? But it's possible. Now, my thing is, okay, for those kids, it's possible, but they need a little bit more help, right? Because it's just too much. And so for me, I tell a lot of people, it's like, if you take responsibility for your freedom, right, that we have, you're able to do a lot more for people, and you're able to build much more purpose in your life, right?
Yeah.
It gives your life meaning. And that's been the biggest thing for me. It's okay, how can I get someone to take responsibility for their freedom? And because that gives them meaning. Because unfortunately, we see people who use their freedom, especially in America, for the wrong reasons, right?
Right.
And I tell people all the time, it's like, life isn't measured. That life is not measured by what you accomplish. Life, and I tell them, like, freedom is not measured by doing whatever you want. I said, life is measured by how much responsibility you take, and freedom is measured by it's not measured by doing whatever you want, but doing whatever you're out to do. So whatever you know the case is, and to me, it's service and love.
Yeah.
And that I tell people all the time, you get measured by that. At the end of your life, that's the scale you get measured by.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get measured by achievement. You get measured by how much you loved and you served.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest purpose for me, is, okay, how can I love and serve at the best of my ability? And it's through the nonprofit world.
Yeah.
Hopefully for profit as well, but in a really good way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's real, man. I've definitely heard that too, because whenever I first started GNWY 3 years ago, I was like 25. And so they're like, you know, normally people like make a successful business,
Yeah.
and then like 40, 50, they start a nonprofit and try to give back. But I don't know, man, just kind of like the same thing. Like you see, especially a need, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're trying to fill that, like you were talking about earlier, trying to fill that gap. And my biggest thing was seeing Oklahoma go from 32nd to one of the third leading states in suicide rate, ranging from the ages of 12 to 26. So I was like, you know, we got to do something about it. And it's like we were using our gifts and everything that we've been given to be able to give back.
Of course.
And so, and I think like doing it at a younger age too, you know what I'm saying? You have like that energy, you have that vibrant, like, you know, I'm going to go get it type thing. And so like, I applaud you, bro. Like keep going, and it's only up from here. You know what I'm saying? So,
and the important thing too is that, you know, younger people, especially these kids that we're helping, they cling off. You know, they really feed off of a younger person.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I mean, we're not that old. So we've been in that position like not that long ago.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, well, I've been there and I saw what is needed to get to where I am today.
Right.
So for me, it's like, okay, I need to grab a lot of that and see how to pour it back. That's kind of the thing with older people.
Yeah.
Which is not their fault. It's just they just lived for so long, right? That they're kind of their mentality in a sense is kind of already in place.
And I feel like even for like kind of, I'm not, like we're saying, it's not saying anything about older people, but it's like, it's also they'll create like the nonprofit, but then get a lot of money and don't know how to and who to give it to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're getting a lot of money, which is great, and they just kind of start just giving money out.
Yeah.
But it's like, really, who are you pouring and who are you investing into? And you really got to see the people that are actually doing the work and putting it in and actually making a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, for sure. And that's I think that's what the kids need nowadays. The younger generation needs nowadays. And you know, I had a mentor growing up, and this guy, you know, he you know, rest in peace his soul, but this guy kind of changed my life. And aside of my parents, right? This is the only other great teacher that I had. You know, no shot to my other mentors. It was just he taught me a lot, and this is something that I like to tell a lot of people. In the second grade, I didn't know how to read. You know, when you're balancing Spanish and English from home to school, it becomes difficult. I didn't know how to read.
Definitely.
And they paired me up with this mentor, right? This guy, his name was Mr. Jack Langston, right? When I met him, he was like in his 80s.
Yeah.
And I was in the second grade, right? And he paired me up with this guy, and he taught me how to read. You know,
Wow.
me and him kept that relation. I aged out of the program, but by that time I was already, you know, like I started off not knowing how to read, and by the end of elementary school, I was like college level reading, right? And me and him stayed connected though. We kind of built that, and unfortunately he passed away like about a year and a half ago. And I gave the eulogy at his funeral. They asked me.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah, about
he was 80 when you were in second grade? How old was this man?
He died when he was like 95, 96, man. The guy had like wheels, man. I remember
like a wheelchair or like wheels?
No, like yeah, dude. I remember I was at the eulogy. I told him, I was like, you know, it was interesting because I spoke about the last time I saw him. And the last time I saw him, like the guy looked like he didn't even and he was like 95 the last time I saw him, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it looked like he didn't miss a step. I was like,
Wow.
I never had it, the older people's like, what? Can you speak up, right?
Right.
Never once. He
Yeah.
heard everything that I said. He got up, he gave me this big, nice hug.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I was like, wow, this guy has a lot of tread and it's tires still, right?
Yeah.
So I was blown away. So when I was there, and I was there with him when he passed away. I was there with him and his family in the room when he passed away. And the whole purpose, kind of the whole idea behind, because I was sitting there reflecting. I was sitting there, I was like, man, his life and the thing, and he was in the Pacific theater in World War II.
Oh, okay.
And he, out of his unit, he fought in the most battles. So
Wow.
yeah, he was the man, like the guy had been through so much, right?
Yeah.
But what I saw from him, and this is kind of what I tell my mentors, and this is what I tell people who are kind of following along with that, and then younger people eventually, right?
Yeah.
I feel like what he saw was, it was more important to cultivate the dreams of people who are going to come after him.
Yeah.
So people like me, right? It was far more important to do that. And,
Yeah.
and I was measuring that, and I was like sitting there, I was like, wow, that's an interesting reflection. Cause I wasn't his only mentee. I was probably, from what I heard, I was his favorite, but,
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially you gave the eulogy. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I was his favorite.
You got to be pretty top 10.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But what I was told was, that I was his favorite. But what I tell people all the time is like, the important part that he saw was, it's far more important to cultivate the dreams that were going to come after him.
Yeah.
Right. So then one day he could entrust his dreams to those people.
That's real.
So, and I tell people all the time, like, I'm his legacy bearer. Like this guy's dreams, even though he's not here in physical, his dreams are still living on through me. So I tell people all the time, I said, it's far more important for us to cultivate the dreams that come after.
Yeah.
Because, if we do so in that manner, I said, we're going to solve our problems that we're going through now a lot faster.
Yeah.
Right. Because then we're getting that kid from, we start right here, but we're able to get that kid up here at that same age. We're doing a lot more work. Definitely. And I saw that in his story. And I tell people all the time, he did the small things. Like, he did them to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
And I told someone, I was like, how small was it for him to teach a kid how to read?
Yeah.
That's a small task, but he did it at the best of his ability, and look where I'm at today. Right.
Exactly.
So I tell people all the time, it's like, we need to focus on the small things, but it's also important for us to look at the dreams that are going to come after.
Yeah.
Because if we don't cultivate those dreams, if we don't find a pathway to them, I mean, we're still going to be trying to figure out the problems we have today in the next 50, 40 years, right? Because, I mean, that's what we're seeing today with the racial problems.
Yeah.
And so we're still trying to figure those out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been on his example. I tell people all the time that this guy did the small things right, and he saw that it was far more important to cultivate those that come after.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like an open thing, and that's kind of some of the things I use when I do my nonprofit work, when I go and speak, when I write and stuff like that. So, and that's the example I usually want to give too.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Well, man, I appreciate you coming through, bro. I'm I don't know, just blown away by like everything that you've, accomplished so far. And like, even just like that whole standard of leadership, even with Generation Y, for one, I wish I had your guy in my life when I was in second grade, because I wasn't even dealing with 2 languages, okay? I'm dealing with English, having an issue reading. No, but I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? You're setting that standard as a leader for your own life. And even going back to what you were saying earlier of like, our first thing foremost is to always serve and give back to other people. And so like, for us as leaders, we should be able to like set the things aside, and like people like us are built a little different. So I feel like those people who are capable and able to do that, like they should go ahead and set that standard and offer that either hand out or hand up. You know what I'm saying? Because like if we're able to do it, why not do that? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because nobody else is probably gonna do that for them. Or somebody else that like you see a need, you got to fulfill that need. And so. But yeah, bro, I appreciate you so much. My bad. Were you about to say something?
Yeah. My last thing with the it's funny you say that, because one of my favorite quotes of all time is no one is too poor not to give, and no one's too rich to not receive. Yeah. That's kind of the thing I look at people. I was like, you're not, and I write in my book a lot about the experiences where I see the poor give, right? And I tell people, it's like, no one's poor, no one's that poor to where they're not able to give, and no one's that rich to where they're not able to receive. Exactly. And I think that's kind of the whole thing we're trying to do and teach.
Yeah, that's real. And and even for us like leaders that are owning a nonprofit too, like this whole thing that we're even creating is to like our ceiling is going to be somebody else's floor and launching pad to be able to. So no matter how big or like well known we get as a nonprofit or whatever, like you or I, you know what I'm saying? You and I, you know what I'm saying? Okay. You know, but it's like it's always going to be that, and because like we're always going to be pushing people higher than what we already reached. And so like that's the biggest thing about leadership, I feel like. So I appreciate you, bro. You got an amazing mission, and we support it heavily. And so if you ever need anything, bro, let us know. I want you to look in the camera, tell everybody where they can follow you, where they can buy your book, where they can donate, where all the things.
All the things. First of all, man, I appreciate you guys for having me and giving me this platform, the talk, man. Had a good time. Yeah, man. People, friends, family, you know, everybody at home. My book is on Amazon. This is
like a PBS.
Yeah, it's a yeah. It's my book is on Amazon. The Incredible True Story. You can buy it, ebook, hard copy. You can follow me and my nonprofit on all our social media platforms. Facebook is the Lara Lopez Foundation, and my Facebook is Baruc Lara, which I just feed off of that. Both of those platforms on Facebook. Instagram is the same thing. You know, you can also find my website, baruclara.com, which is on my bio on my social media. You know, and you know, just keep up with us through social media, and that's where you'll be able to have all the opportunity to give, be a part of our mission, and hopefully be able to help us curate those dreams that we're looking for. So do your thing, people at home.
Do your thing. We're signing out now. So if you can, go ahead and buy everything he's got. Awesome. So I appreciate you, bro, one more time. And then be sure to follow him on anything and everything. And then be also on the lookout for anything that he's about to drop, or any leadership conferences or anything. So also do not forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, share, all of the things, so we can be able to get Baruc Lara's story out more effectively to anybody and everybody out there. And so we appreciate you tuning in to this week's Generation Y podcast. We'll see you next time.